So we're opening the floor now for questions. And I had posted before that if you want to maintain anonymity, you're welcome to send your questions to me in the chat and I will read them out for you. But if people want to kind of speak up very quickly about their questions, we can also do that. So do you have any questions? I don't see any in the chat. But I have one for you, Minister Jackie, that I'm going to start with, so to get us rolling while people sending their questions. So this question is about women struggling with maintaining a career and fulfilling the purpose for marriage as we have now relearned it to be. So do you have any words of advice or tips that you can share in that regard now?
Thank you, Deaconess Chinedu. So at the core of our lives, just like I've highlighted, at the core really is yielding to the kingdom. And so we must prioritize our lives to give that result, if you see what I mean. Now, we have to work a lot. I have a 9 to 5, aside many other things that I do. So there's no dispute. But I think that one thing is sure, is the fact that whatever I do must give me enough time to infuse as much as possible into my children, into my marriage, into whatever it is that God has called me to. It must. So when I say it must, it means that we would decide and we would choose the things that we want to give our time to as work, because even our work is service to God. But then they mustn't hinder us from doing the call. You know, there's so much about just even delivering godly children, just that purpose alone. And one of the things that even I have seen just in this past 1.5 of pandemic, if no more, I have realized that there is a space, a very big space that God has put in the parenting of our children that we are the ones that we are to occupy. I saw that in this 1 year of pandemic, just so that if, it begins to answer your question. And I said to my husband, I said, honey, in this past 1.5 years of working from home, I have answered many questions these children have asked me. My kids are 10 and 9, 8.5. And so I began to say, so all those days we were dropping them at the after school club, who were they asking these questions? My Oludimu people that are not on the same path with me, if you see what I mean. And I just began to really uncover on my own, just seeing every day the fights they have, the argument they have, what they watch, and they're like, mommy, these guys, yesterday they were telling me about people trying to be transracial. Even me, I didn't really know. So they were showing me a guy who was not trying to be Asian. They were doing his face. He had to go through an operation. They are doing a head. Just so you can understand, my parents, that we cannot afford to say that one walk is keeping us away from explaining some things and from infusing light, the real light into these children. Every day of this pandemic, I saw that. Every day. And I said to myself, I will yield. As you know, I wrote it down. It's a prayer I pray. I must yield to heaven. So what will it take for you to do that? Is a question to ask you. Do you see? It's a question for everyone's sake. Is it that maybe my husband, if his job is more flexible, okay, honey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. We do this. Currently, we're doing purpose-driven life. And please, I don't have perfect children. God does not even need, I'm sure he's not even calling us to perfect parenting. He's calling us to purposeful parenting. That's another tip for us there. And so you can say, oh, honey, you're the one who comes back home early. This is what we do. We have Bible study. The kids are currently reading purpose-driven life. There's a devotional for children for it. And so we're doing that every night. We're going on that journey. So you have to make sure that one of you can do this work, if both of you can't. If your job is the more serious one, two of you cannot have very serious and unavailable jobs that make you unavailable. No, how are you going to fulfill that purpose? So those are things that we have to sit down as intentional couples, as intentional children of God, to say, what are we doing to make sure that we don't fail on this? So women, sometimes you just be bringing the more money if the man is willing to sit back, but you must remember that kingdom agenda must be fulfilled in my marriage. So that's how I'm going to answer that question. We can't say so much. It's very personal. People, different situations, different scenarios. If you see what I mean, Deaconess Chinedu, everybody will have to sit down and say, okay. I mean, and I can go on that topic, but I hope that has helped us to just say we have to reorganize, because after all we have done, somebody, let me go further. Mrs. Bukwawashika put something up today on Instagram, and she was talking about Afghanistan. And she was talking about the fact that if you want to pick a few lessons from what has happened, you realize that, God forbid, we can be homeless in one day. We can be, oh Jesus, and I don't even, but that post did a lot to my mind, even already today, which is the fact that there are some things that can never be taken away from us. Whilst there are some things that can be taken away from us, like this. The things you instill into your children, the kind of life you raise in your home. Do you see? It can't be, even if a war comes, you see what I mean? Whilst he can take away the money and the cars and everything, it won't take away a child that you have raised for God. And I hope that answers. My spirit says that answers. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Ma. That's an awesome, very practical response. Still waiting for questions. I don't see any.
So I have my answer.
Pastor Tino's raising her hand.
Please go ahead, Ma.
Okay, so still in terms of husband and wife, well, not necessarily for children now, but in terms of marrying, and then maybe the wife is asked to choose between the marriage and the career, because that kind of happens a lot. So some women may think they've invested a lot in school, they have this job, and now if I marry my husband or my husband to be, I think even the dynamics these days is that some men are intimidated by the profile of the women who have accomplished a lot in school and on the job. And so some accomplished women are feeling, is it because of my accomplishment that this is not happening? How do you balance, marriage with the career, with the school, and, the men feeling, maybe she's above my level or something. So can you just put some spiritual spin on that, please? Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much. So the first thing first is I really want to help every man who really even doesn't understand that we are man, woman, we are God's, human beings who have been breathed the Spirit of God. So there is no one person here, one person there, all that thing that we grew up with that were not clarified for us properly. There's nothing like that. If we really go and see it, the breath of God, you see, is inside me, and there's no seniority or juniority, if I can use that word, in that. That's where I'll start from. Immediately you were asking that question, the Holy Spirit just said, remind any man that is here of Deborah, of the woman that Deborah was. And the fact that the Bible made sure, God, sometimes you wonder why God let some things be written in the Bible. But the Bible made sure to tell us that she was a married woman. But it was not Lapidoth who was under the tree and telling the warriors what to do or getting into the... No, it wasn't. Now, my answer to that really is for us to really understand that if you're really, really going to fulfill the purpose of God for your marriage, you see that oneness that God talks about, that two people come together and become one. You have to first swallow that pill. Because if you have not swallowed that pill and allowed it to digest in your heart and your lives, you will constantly keep seeing this funny, I'm doing this and that she's doing that. No. We are one. We are one. I'm sitting down here, I'm speaking to you, but take it or leave it. It is the union of the Oludimus that is doing this little assignment. Do you agree? Yes or no? Yes. And so you must understand that maybe it is my husband God has given the better job or better income, or he's the one that's done all the qualifications and Sigma and whatever it is that, certifications that gives them all the... Fine. It is us. It is us. And if it is the woman as well, it is also. You see, one of the things that a man can do that would help him for the rest of his life is to see his wife as a gift. The moment you don't see your wife as a gift, you will have issues with everything. Even when she's trying to be the most humble person ever, you will still see issues. She's a gift to you. I want you to picture your wife. And if there's any man, and I just sense that, I want you to picture your wife as the powerful PA to a top executive in the bank, maybe like the owner of UBA or I don't know, the HSBC, or I don't know what banks we have in America, sadly, but at least I know what we have in UK here. But imagine the top executives, even for our own Nigeria setting, your $10. Imagine them and their PAs. Do you know how powerful their PAs are? Their PAs most likely prepare their slides, their proposals, they can tell who is going to see them at certain time or not. Do you see? They can tell if one person has been coming for 1 year, they can decide if that person will keep coming for the next 3 years. Is it a lie? It's not a lie. It's not around me. Sorry, we cannot. No. It's busy. It's flying out, and they will give you the whole, plan for the man's life for 1 year. That's the PO. But who is the person that we all know that is the person? Is your $10. If you see your wife as that executive, she's not an assistant. Let's not even go into that topic again. But if you see her as the helpmate, you will embrace all the goodness inside of her. My husband says it every time. He was saying it, which day was that, about this COVID, because I was the one who fell ill first. But then he fell ill, and the moment I saw that his temperature was 40 something, as a woman, immediately, I just threw away my sickness. Which sickness? Immediately. And then before we knew, the kids were sick. Just to give you just a practical, simple example, I had to jump up. He was telling his brother over the phone, that in fact, hey, Buki has been taking care of me. That he doesn't even know what, but the point is to just see each other as gifts, as blessings, as when I was saying here, they said my husband has a grace that God has given him. I have a grace that God has given me. We come together to become one. There's nobody who has been given less. And I hope that answers the question, the question to really just help us to say, there is no you or me. It is us. We are one. And together we produce for the kingdom what he wants us to. And we will not get in the way with ourselves. We will not get in the way with our flesh. We will not get in the way even with what third party are grumbling around our ears. We won't let them. All right. I hope that helps. Ma.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, ma. Thank you, ma.
I have a couple of questions here that I'm going to read out. Before I do that, I just want to direct everyone's attention to the chat. The God's Prepared Singles Hub has been referenced by Minister Jackie, and I've posted the website in there for people that are interested in exploring that some more. All right, so the first question here, Ma, is for those trusting God to get married, after you have prayed and received confirmation about the person, what are some critical conversations you think the man and woman should have before getting married?
I love it. I really love it. I love it. I really love it. And I'm grateful you asked the questions. Yes, we have heard God. Yes, God has directed us. Let's begin to ask questions around values. Let's begin to just, check that we're ticking the right boxes. That one of the things I've learned, and even with my journey, is that God says yes does not mean yes now. Sometimes God is doing a work even on the other person, and it's not yet time to go and take on the office of husband or wife. Do you see? And so it's very important to begin to check out, we talk about the topics of value. What is big for you? What are your core values? And you don't just ask like that, like you're at an interview. You begin to just understudy. You watch them. You're at a date or a movie. You see how they're talking to someone. God has shown you, yes, this is the one. But then you know that there is a work still to be done in this person's personality. This person's personality has not really suppressed under the spirit, if you see what I mean. And so you want to begin to have those conversations that open up your eyes to see. Open up yourselves to see weaknesses that can ruin us. Do you see? You want to have conversations on communication. How do we talk? How do we explain and express each other? You don't want to get into marriage and it's like, vabavu, like, oh my God, what happened here? Because again, God said it, yes, but there's a schooling system that we go through. You want to begin to talk about children. You want to talk about, for example, the things I shared about parenting today, you want to get their perspective on it. You want to understand whether you are with a person who is going to say kids are meant to be slapped and beaten. You want to check, because slapping and beating did not do so much for people like me. It just even made us more rebellious, So because just not agreeing on that can become a big problem in raising children in a marriage, where one person is saying, let's do this. No, get it. That's not the way. But then you keep clashing and you're not able to even go further. That's another thing. You want to talk about sex. You want to talk about it in a way that you don't commit sin, but you want to have an understanding. So one of the things I do in my primary sessions is we talk about expectations, sexual expectations. Yeah. We talk about past. You want to uncover as much as you can uncover. We are not getting married to come and be opening surprise windows every day. I can always say to my singles, it's not a black market. So it's not like, in Nigeria, where I grew up in Sule, we had one market in Itire. If that takes anybody on a memory lane, it's called night market. So you will buy ugu and all those vegetables. You may get home the next morning, you realize that what you bought was half brown, half green. You know why? Because it was night market now. The women are ready. We say, so yeah, just buy, you're not about to do that. Oh, that's not what marriage is. And that's why I really love that question. So you want to talk about the little burdens that you have in your heart, because of the work I do, I see so many scenarios. You see a woman who has clearly had God to go after a certain assignment that would need money from the union. And the husband is like, you dare not, because you are Darocha, or you think we have all the money. And this woman clearly hears the burden and she's like, oh, God, show him too. And this man is hindering and he's like, no, you can't do it. You better go to work, make your money. And she's like, no, I have a calling. I hear babies crying. I see and they're not, the man is not allowing it. Now, you want to ask, what are the burdens of your heart? What is the big picture of your life? We have to know. We have to know and we have to see a little. We may not know it clearly. My husband didn't see all of these, but he saw a woman who was teaching teenagers. And after Redeem first, we get to Redeem in early in the morning, 6:30, fire service first for do that one, workers meeting, workers prayer service. Then I would go and teach Sunday school in the big church. I was a Sunday school teacher. And then when I finished first service, I would go to teens church and do my second service there. Do you see? Then I will sit down. And after the service, and they start counseling, one will come, ma, excuse me, Auntie Buki, and my husband will be in the car. He would have finished from his own, he was in a Daystar. He would have come there. He would be waiting in the car for me. And he would be seeing me through the gate because the teens church had a gate. As one is standing up, the next one is sitting down, and I'm answering. The point I'm making is you must have an idea of what your future entails and begin to discuss it. Sir, I really see myself, having a homeless child, homeless people's home. I really see myself doing that. We're going to have more than 3 children, but there are going to be other children. We have to ask this question so that if we need to pray you into it, we can pray you into it now. Not that you'll be a roadblock, for God. So, and I can go on and on. We will talk about even, so, just even as little as we are believers, and you won't believe it, we are believers, but I don't believe in Holy Communion, and I believe in Holy Communion. And I can go on that spectrum, but and these are things that I'm sitting with at marriage counsel, and I'm wondering how did we get on the journey of 1.5 years of dating? Will you marry me? And then you get in front of me and you are saying, I don't do communion. And I'm like, so what are you going to tell the children? Whose own is going to be the one that we are going to sell to the children? My people, we can go on this topic for long. So it tells you that we have so many things to talk about, the issues of in-laws, the issues of third party, where are we submitting to spiritually? So many things that we don't touch on that we must touch on before we go and say, I do, even when God has given us the word. I can tell you the things that caused problem in my marriage in the first 3 months, first 6 months. It was even just my mouth. You can imagine this same mouth that God will use. And so you can imagine that if I did not put myself through it was quick schooling, like, it will not, affliction will not rise second time, not in my life. So these are things you want to watch out for. Just even personality flaws. You want to watch out for them and you want to talk about them. You want to say, let's sign up for this personality class I saw that somebody's doing. Let's sign up for them now, not when we have started causing trouble and children are seeing us fight and shout. So there's so much to talk about money. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about who is going to manage it. Are we both going to be making it? If we're both making it, who's going to manage it? It's not a function of I'm the head. So because I'm the head, I am the man. I manage it. Even when you know that you are not very good with money. And the next thing you see, new TV now, you are bought. Even when we don't have the money. But if the woman is the one that, this woman, she knows how to manage money. I beg, babe, this is our money. Yeah, what do we do? Okay? Of course, it's not a prison yard. We're going to be free. There's freedom, but you are able to make decisions that will take you forward, not for ego and all of that, So we'll talk about money. Who is the spender? Who is the saver? What does money mean to you? Is money a tool, or is money something you use your life to get? Because you have to check these things. We are believers, yes. But so these are things that you can begin to groom yourself, train yourself, and equip yourself so that you can really marry, strongly and even thrive in that marriage. And I can go on, that's another topic entirely. But I hope I've opened up your mind to real life practical things that we need to talk about. Where are we going to live? Where is God saying we are going to go? Do we hear God? We have to hear God. You have to hear God, Are we both hearing God? Because it's one thing for one person to be hearing God and be the only one that always hears God in the marriage than that topic entirely. Because then we are always having to submit to somebody who is not hearing. And, there's so much I can say. But yeah, I hope that even just gives us perspective.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a series of 3 questions that I'm going to try to summarize so you can take them together. Okay. So the first one is, how does a Christian spouse deal with unfaithfulness from a Christian partner? So these people are married and the husband or the wife cheats. How do they deal with unfaithfulness, especially if forgiveness is difficult, or the question here says impossible. I know it's not impossible, but that's what the question says. The next one is, how does a Christian wife deal with a Christian husband who was initially God-fearing, but became abusive over time? It doesn't say the form of abuse, but maybe you can just speak to verbal, emotional, or physical. And then the last question is kind of related to the point you made while you were teaching about the transracial question. And this question is, how do Christian parents deal with their children who come home and begin to claim they want to be a boy or a girl? So I'm assuming that it's a female child that comes home and wants to become a male child, or vice versa. Thank you.
Let me start with children, the child that comes home and says that, they're a boy or they're trying to be a girl. Or I want to first please speak to proactive parenting. I beg us. I beg you in the name of Jesus Christ. This is what I'm a young mom, so you can tell that I've not gotten it. So but these are the things that crop up in my head. And, my heart is really there because I've just finished the teens boot camp, and but proactive parenting, purposeful parenting that has a goal, parenting with the end in mind. I want to first speak to nobody who has asked this question, so all of us. Proactive parenting of telling what is the truth to our parents, to our children ahead of time, before the lie of the enemy gets infiltrated into them. Whether they are 2, 3, whatever it is, we start watching movies that speak against the things that we are against. We start reading books that speak against the things that we're against. We start commenting on those things that we're against. When we see them happen in front of our eyes, we comment on them. My son came back home. Oh, there's someone in my class who has 2 men as their parents. Oh yeah. We opened it and we dissected it. I love the fact that on his own, he had read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah as a child in one of the Bible storybooks I bought for him. So he always refers to it every time. That, these are the sins that made God destroy these people. Homosexuality. So he says it already. He's just going to be 10 next month. He says it by himself. So please, I just wanted to urge us, please. Proactive parenting. This world, they are not mincing words in selling all their darkness. They are not holding back. You see, I'm not using accent to talk again. Because it's a part that really gets me. Because so I just want to beg us. Whatever we are doing, how hard we are working, we must be able to infuse truth. It's not the Sunday service that will do it. It's a lie. We must have time. We're sitting down at the table or in bed, in the car when we are driving a long journey. Let's be unpacking all these things. They see a girl and a girl kiss at the park, explain it there and then. Okay. So someone's child has come and, is thinking of that way. Of course, prayer. A serious battle prayer. Battle of, you're battling for the mind of that child. Serious warfare. It's not only you. You will call everybody that you can trust with that kind of thoughts an issue. And I mean it when I say serious warfare. It's serious warfare of the mind. That's that. Now, you would expose that child to the dangers of what they are asking for. You don't come and, at that point, you don't come and do, it's a sin, it's wrong, not in my house. You know, I'm saying this because I work with teens. I have a journey I've been through. I know that there was a way I was told about some things that didn't keep me away from doing those things. So, you're going to expose them to the dangers of those things. So for instance, at some point, I think my son was 8, we played videos on YouTube that showed him people who were under the influence of alcohol as a way to just explain that we will not say drink, don't drink, you know, because at the end of the day, maybe they'll be 18. We will not, what we are saying is, this is what happens when you're under the influence of alcohol. We played many videos of men that entered inside the drainage, that, you know, had accidents, you know, all sorts of things, that different things happened to them because they were not in their right mind. He was like, is this what the alcohol does? I said, my husband said, and my husband was fine. He was one that did that topic that day. Now, that's to say that we don't really come and start. We have said it in our devotions and all, the alcohol is not good. He doesn't see us drink it. We don't know what we do. But, you know, he has people in class that will tell them, my daddy drank a whole kinikon. So, you know, we are not ignorant, but we have presented the options to him. So at this point, Sama, you will present the options, show them what it means. Show them the testimony, there are many on YouTube of people who went that way and their head has come back, you know, and God has restored them because they would tell you that there was nothing in it. The other day I was I had a teenager's boot camp. I just finished it. And a teenager asked a question that she wants to pierce her ears. She wants 2-3 more piercings. Nigerian, let's not be deceived, Nigerian and living in the UK here. And, you know, a girl just said, oh, Ma, can I help her answer the question? Can I help you answer the question? I'm like, oh, okay, go ahead. Another teenager, you know, and she just gave an example. She said, I did it. I did it. My parents said no to me. They said I mustn't do it. But when I went to boarding, one of the days when we made our hair, the ladies who came to me, they asked them, I said, can you pierce my ears? And they did it for me. In fact, me that I was teacher, I was just trying to compose myself that, okay, let's hope she's going to say what I need her to say because she must give this girl instruction, you know, because I was really worried for myself. Why did I give her permission? She said, but you know what? After I did it, I told myself, what's this? There's no hype. She said the hype that was in the thing. She said, I know the hype you must have been getting from, you know, seeing your friends with 2 piercings. She said, I also thought there was something to say, but now I don't even remember to wear another earring in that hole. And she said, you know, the annoying thing is, I don't even know. I can't block it again. It's there forever. Now it was just a hype of a, you know, moment. She said, think about long term when you feel enticed by these things. I didn't just say that story for saying sake. I said that story to make you understand the power of showing your children the other side, the repercussions. There's this lady who wrote Jackie Perry Hill or something. Her name just, it came to my mind now, but I think she used to be she used to be gay. So she wrote a book, Good Gay, Bad Gay, or something fun, I can't remember. But she used to be gay, and she's now, you know, she's a pastor, preaches across platforms in America there. You know, those are the kind of things you want to expose them to now. So beyond just saying, no, it can't be. And you have to go and do the work now, and do the work in a very intentional way, not the hard way, in a way where you are appealing to the mind, using tools, warfare on one side, love on the other side, and exposure on the other side. Sincerely, that's all I'm going to say. But I know there is a battle that will be won. There are many books, there are many videos you can actually make them watch. Not all at once. One day, just sit down. Let's watch this video about this. Tomorrow about this. You know, there's a movie, Black Sheep or something, that a documentary that was done in the UK here about a boy who went to join the gang. He was even trying to bleach his skin, you know, just because of what he saw. He was black, you know, Nigerian. That's another story, a movie you can make your kids watch. He did a lot for my young children. Good gay girl, good God. Thank you. That's it, by Jackie Hill, something like exactly. And that name just came to me from nowhere. So that's something that may be a tool for you. Yeah. And I think, yeah, counseling. Yeah, of course. I can just imagine even the parents who need counseling on how to just help the child. Again, you may need to change the environment. So maybe there are close friends who are doing it, and that just came to my mind. Maybe they're close friends who have done it. They see every day, they speak. Sometimes you want to detach them from that immediately, even if it means you moving your house. It's a destiny thing. All right, so I think that would help. God help us. So that's one question I've done. Wow. The second one is the unfaithful spouse. You know, the thing about faithfulness is it's quite terrible. And I really want us to know that it's never a thing to let happen to your partner. I just, if I can appeal to anyone at all, whether you're single or married, don't let it happen. It's one of those things that leave a dent like a hole in a relationship, in a life. It's the way it messes up not just only the offended, even the offender. You don't know until you see him. Why did I do this? I sit with couples, and that has really opened up my mind when I see 30-year-olds about to get married on Zoom calls with me during pre-marriage sessions, crying because of the unfaithfulness of their father or their mother. It goes a long way. So I've spoken to that just to say, please don't do it. But it has happened to us. What you want to remember, and it's not blackmail, it's not spiritual blackmail, is that we all have enjoyed grace from God. Sincerely speaking. Sometimes the purpose of God bringing you in contact and in marriage to that person is for you to show them the true life grace of God in real human form. Sometimes, I didn't say all the time, sometimes is that you come into a life and they will enjoy Jesus Christ, the grace of Jesus Christ, the love of Jesus Christ through you, and you'll be getting a tick in heaven like, that's something. On the other side is to remember the power of forgiveness and the poison that unforgiveness is. Infidelity is painful. Infidelity is painful. I can go on. Infidelity is painful. I have seen a woman who is 62 and she's still suffering despite having great children, grandchildren, from the bitterness of infidelity, even though she's still married to the man. Infidelity is painful. But I want to speak to that person. You see this woman I'm talking about, I know her so well. I don't want you to be that woman, whether you're a man or a woman. I want you to forgive and forgive truly. I want you to seek the face of God and say, God, this person has done this. What do you want me to do? Don't just ask him because I've asked you to. Ask him because you want an answer from him. I want you to remember again that the stories in the Bible were put to instruct us, to educate us, and all those other things that 2 Timothy tells us. I want you to remember that there was a Hosea and a Gomer. And that if the Lord intentionally used that story, though as a typology of how he keeps forgiving his people when they fall again and again, but he intentionally used the story of a couple because he knows that it is a scenario that we will be faced with on earth. And we will not say we were not equipped with what we could have done. Now, infidelity is like coronavirus if it is not quickly curtailed. Do you see? So the man or whoever is cheating cannot continue if you know you want full restoration, you want forgiveness, because I'm sorry, it's really, really impactful when there is repentance, when you stop doing what you're doing wrong. So that's something for us to take home, even if you're the offended person, because is there continuity? Because then what we are saying would need some other 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. If I was sitting with you as a counselor, it's not just going to stop at forgive, let go. But if it was just a one-off, they've confessed, they've committed to it, they need your forgiveness so that they can move forward. You need to forgive so that you too can move forward. So that all of these things you have heard today, which is not a mistake that you're here, we're only 37 or 36 here. So if you heard it, it is not a mistake. It's what are you going to do with what you have heard? Are you going to imprison yourself, even your children that don't even know anything about it yet, with the bitterness and the unforgiveness? Or are you going to use the grace of God that you have received and you're going to use it as a gift to that person? Let go and rebuild the foundations that may be shaking now. There's a lot to do with that. Counseling, both of you together, you know, and a whole lot. But I think that that's the word I have for that person. Forgiveness is not impossible, except you have decided not to do it. It's not impossible. Get people to pray with you, carry you in prayers. Your heart needs to be prayed for. Your mind needs to be prayed for. Don't underestimate the power of prayers in any situation in your marriage, any situation. If you have people you can spare them, just say, pray for my heart every day. Just keep praying for my heart every day. That's a way to let God do what he wants to do with you and through your union. And I can go on and on. Counseling is very important at that time. Therapy, because the person may even be having issues, mental issues already just from that. And I can tell you that because I've seen it. But that's it. I think I'll just stop there. There was another question. Abuse. Yes, abuse. The God-fearing partner who all of a sudden have a problem with that, you know, which is to speak to my singles again, to say, and this is what just comes to my mind to my singles. Don't ignore the way he treats his mom, his sisters. I mean, a guy slaps his elder sister at home and you think that, oh, he doesn't do it to me. Oh, no. Him and his sister, they have issues, you know, I don't know what's between them. I'm sorry, I'm shouting. You know, but it really just, I felt in my head like, it's coming to you. It's a journey, it's like, boom, 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 boom. It's coming like this, it's walking to you like a snail. God forbid. So I needed to say that. Someone needed to hear that. Because really, sometimes if we really are patient, we will see the signs. Even if it's anger that's just boom, you know, blows up like that, you will see the signs of lack of control. Who cannot slap somebody here? No, let's even ask the question, who cannot? We can. But one of the analogy that somebody gave at the St. Adu conference in 2017 is that look for that man that slaps and beats his wife. Let him stand in front of a Nigerian soldier, an army, who is in camo. What does he do when the soldier slaps him? He will put his hand under his seat like this in the car, like, sir, sorry, should I move the car? And so he was trying to give us an analogy that there is nobody that cannot control their anger. It's a lie. But it's a mindset that has come that this, I will beat you, nothing will happen. That's why you see what you should look out for when you are trying to get married. It's deep, but don't let me go into all that. I want to answer a question, but I need to just establish that so that we understand the mindset behind the person who is beaten. So that a lot of times when we say forgive or we say, you know, it's because I need you to always understand who is behind the scene, who is working. I see, and that's what I was saying to also that other person who talked about faithfulness. Who is behind the scene? Who knows the greater purpose of your union and is already infusing destruction so that you don't fulfill that purpose? Who? You know the person now. You know it's Satan. I told you it's JD before. Steal, kill, destroy. Remember when things happen in your union to check who is here, who is working, and to say, what are we going to do? There's a lot to say there. There's so much, you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity to just be able to, but there's just so much. But to the woman who, if abuse is continued, I beg you in the name of God Almighty, let's have physical separation. If it is mental abuse that can make you go crazy, if it is physical abuse that can kill you or injure you, if it is abuse that can even contaminate the mind of the children, I know what I'm saying, and I have instances and examples where the father is constantly telling the children, your mother is this, your mother is that. Oh my God, you have to find a way to separate. Not only just for you, for even the repercussion of what's happening in the life and the future of those children. When I say separate, I beg you in the name of God. I mean separate to give chance for God to do what he wants to do, not for God to close the door. We are in such a generation where it's not working, slam the door, I'm out. Come on. Did you remember what the Bible said in Malachi 2:15? It was God's wise plan. Marriage, God's wise plan. You know, so to speak to that person is to say, if it's continued, please separate. Separate with accountability, because that's always where the problem is. We separate where the problem is. We separate and just think, well, everybody going away. If you come around, good luck, don't come around and move on. No, separate with goals clearly stated. I'm separating because I don't want to die. The way we are going, you know, explain it out. Call the pastor. call mommy or daddy, people who were there, people who have your back, people who love that union, people who love both of you, and tell them, I will be here. This is where we'll be, with the children. He will be there. Let him give himself to maybe an anger management, counseling program, and a whole lot. Even the woman may need communication training, because sometimes it's always a function. Sometimes at the bottom is that triggering that. Of course, that's not, there's no excuse for abuse, and that must be clear. But again, it's to say that sometimes there's work to be done on both ways. It's not only the person that's abusing that needs to be helped. Okay. That's for, if it's continued. But if it's not continued, if, this is a one-off, is an error, it has happened, of course we forgive. I also know that we live in a generation that people say, once it happens, I'm out. I won't take it. Don't take, please, let us be wise. One of the things that Esther had was wisdom. I wanted to go, I won't go there but maybe this was the reason why God took me on it on Friday, of the fact that only God knows what Esther's eyes would have seen even in that palace, even up until that time. And so that's to speak to the fact that we must be ready to take on some sort of, is it persecution now, if I can use that word, like the Bible says. Sometimes it will come to some other couple as financial hardship that almost makes them ashamed. Sometimes it comes to that person as maybe having that one instance where you maybe got battered or abused. Sometimes it comes in different things. But just be that person who can take on stuff and let it go. That's what I'm going to say to that person. If it's continued, I'm saying it again, please don't die there. God has purpose for your life, his life, your union, but give room for work to be done. And don't do it alone. Don't keep quiet. Please call people that that will not use you to preach on the pulpit, but call people that will love you, people, your pastors who they have genuine interest. Let them sit with you and walk you on the journey of restoration. Sincerely, we can't do it alone. And I think that God gave us a good couple to just even use as an example. He gave us Esther to show us the role of a mentor, of a guide, of a help. And I think that's it really. But please don't keep yourself under abuse that can destroy your life. It's so important to me. There's so much I could say, but I hope that helps. Counseling as well, of course. Counseling is not what weak people do. Counseling is what strong people do. All right. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mar. Thank you. I'll hand over to Pastor Tunde now.
Praise the Lord.
Oh, hallelujah, sir.
I don't know how I can thank Minister Oludimu. Thank you so much. But before I pass my comment, I have a question. I purposely did not send it to Deaconess Chinedu or put it on the platform. I want to thank God for your life, ma, and the ministry. Thank you so much for what you have shared with us. The question is this: what will you advise somebody who happens to be a child of God and then single, but looking forward to get married, but the person is looking forward to get married to an unbeliever? When we know that the Bible says that do not be equally yoked, light and darkness, they are not the same. And we thank God for what you have shared with us, that the marriage is for us to be able to fulfill the purpose of God, and of course to bring the investment of God in our life to come to bear, And so what will be your advice to somebody who is seeking to marry an unbeliever? This will help most of our singles. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. It's such a difficult scenario to want to put yourself into. And I believe that if anyone is listening to me, and I thank Pastor for, asking, because sometimes are the questions in the hearts of people, or the steps that people are about to take that they're not even telling anybody about. If you hear the questions that have even come up already in the Q&A already, you've heard of a believer that has done this, a believer that has done that just because we are flesh. Do you see? Because the devil will still borrow people's minds. Do you see? So if you now picture the fact that you who know the truth, you know the way, decide to now go and join yourself with someone who doesn't even take in and take on all of those things you're saying, it means that you have destined yourself to a life of misery. And marriage is not a call to misery. It's a call to ministry. It's a call to mission, but it's even a call to bliss. To bliss. You remember when I talked about 1,000 and 10,000? It's in all ramifications. It's in not just money, or it's in even peace of mind. It's in joy. And so you want to ask yourself, what really is the end in mind? Getting married now or getting married well? You want to ask yourself that question. I mean, the other day, the popular actress, and I will use it because she said it herself. Why did she get married in that first marriage? You know, she said, because, well, everyone was saying, it was time, let's do it, marry, it's time, you should marry, you know. And she did it. And 1 year after, it was all over again. And, you know, thank God for the second chance that she had. Those are the kind of things you want to begin to ask yourself, what do I really want? I said, marry with the end in mind. If you don't remember anything, remember that. Remember that you don't want to get married and be the ones who are knocking on the door of the pastors every day because husband has slapped you or wife has slapped you, because that happens as well, or wife is not sharing what they have and they're bossy, whatever it is that may happen in that case. I spoke to you earlier of someone who is 62, a mother and a grandmother, who is living in bitterness and she feels like her life has not been fulfilled. She feels like a lot of things have been cut short for her because of her marriage choice. And I want you to just picture yourself in those years to come and ask yourself, the weight that I have to go through now, compared to cutting short that weight and getting into a life of misery, a life where I'm unhappy, I am married. I mean, this woman would tell you that the reason she's not a deaconess in church is because she married an unbeliever who married somebody else, who married somebody else. You know, she would tell you that, you know, so, and it speaks to the fact that if you make a wrong marriage choice, it's not only you that will not even be happy. There are so many things that were set to happen to you that may not happen. Particularly if you're single and you have the chance to make it right now. And I can use this person's story and go on a long journey, but we because of time, we can. My counsel to you is this: marry with the end in mind. Marry with the desire to fulfill purpose with your marriage, and not just marry for marrying's sake and to tick, you know, the box because my parents are on my case. Your parents are on your case. I have answers to anybody facing pressure from their marriage. If you go on Amazon, I have a free ebook. It's called Positioned. Hey, Jesus. Chinedu is going to help us. Chinedu, you're going to help us. It's on Amazon. It's called, just if you type Jacqueline Oludimu and type Positioned. Oh my God, positioned for something, I can't remember. But I particularly just answered the question of people who are facing pressure to marry because they will push you. I said it's like pressure cooker. You know, pressure cooker, when you cover the beans and cover it there, all the heat, everything will cook up, you know. When they do all of that and they open up, you are the one who has been cooked up. Nobody else followed you in that pressure. They will put you in it, cover you up in it, but you are the only one that will go through it. Remember that. Remember, if anybody is telling you that biological clock is ticking, that it is a lie. Because as we can even see it now, 55-year-olds are having babies. Are we not in this world that God has even given us more answers? So don't let anyone push you into hell, because marriage can either be heaven. You are a blessing. How are you getting these things? Thank you so much. I can't even remember. But that's the book. Hey, single, get positioned, not pressured. Thank you. Something like that. Yes. I have it on. I just wrote it one day. I was just broadening for people who are really just falling under the pressure of get married. Because I see that when they come and see that after 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, they're having issues already. Yes. 3 months. And we're having to unpack it. Okay. So I was saying that, don't succumb to pressure, the biological clock, that's a lie. I've also told you that, time is going on. There's no time that is going on anybody. There's nowhere we are rushing to. We're even in end time. So if that's a reason, that may be a reason for you to just calm down. So don't bother. But again, to speak to that person is to check really if you're really, really born again, if you really understand your calling and your path in Christ, because then you will guide it and you will guard it. You will make sure that nothing tampers with it. It's such a big deal. It's such a big deal. So I think that's where I'm going to stop. Please don't go into marriage that will lead to hell for you. I want you to have heaven on earth. I don't want you to have hell on earth. It's possible when you marry an unbeliever, because they don't understand all of these things that we have talked about today. They don't. They think that might just something you do for doing sake, and you know better. Why are you going to subject yourself to worse? And so that's it, Pastor. So I hope that helps the person.
Yeah, I believe so. One more question, if you don't mind. I know time is fast spent, but what advice will you give somebody who is already in the marriage and happens to be a child of God, but the other person is unbeliever? What can such a person do?
As well. So I always use the example of Smigglesworth. I think that's the general, who there's a story about his life that, at some point he was unbelieving, and I think maybe it was backsliding. I don't know what happened, but he was unbelieving that he wasn't going to church, he was drinking or something. And his wife went to church, she had gone for a vigil or something, and she came back the next day or in the middle of the night or something, and the man refused to open the door. The man left her in the snow, in the cold. I mean, we live in this kind of country, so we know what that means. And she sat by the door in the cold there overnight. The next day he came, opened the door, abusing her. In fact, they said from the story I read, they said when he opened the door, she fell into the house because she was really leaning on the door, like with all the code and everything. So she fell into the house and then stood up. And immediately she got into the kitchen and she was like, what would you like for breakfast? And she started cooking and she started doing it. So when I read this, I'm like, hey, Jesus is Lord. Jackie, can you do that? But you see, they are not disciples and they are not Sarah and Abraham. They are human beings like us, which tells me every time, because sometimes we think that Bible stories are like, I don't know, figurines or something, but which tells me that it is possible to do it. One of the things I always say about marriage is that through me, my husband must enjoy the grace of God. I don't know, it's such a big thing for me. I wish I could say that in Yoruba, that, Maria Nuba. Through me, he would receive, he would enjoy the grace or your fellow, we will eat it. I don't know how to, I wish I could say it in my Yoruba way, but I hope you get it, that he will enjoy the grace of God through me, that he will see what true love means through me. And this is the word I have for that person who currently is married to an unbeliever. It is tough. I saw it before my very eyes as a child. So I'm not trying to tell you that I get it, at least to a very good extent. But I also believe that life can be saved around you, with you, through you, if you see it as that. If you don't keep looking at it as something the enemy has put in your life. This is how they got me. This is how they spot my life. If you can flip the coin and decide to be the one or the vessel, the Bible is very clear about how through our actions, we can actually win people. There's a reason every scripture is in the Bible. It tells us of a possibility, of a realm that we can step into, even with our lives or our unions. You need extra grace. It's not easy. So you are going to keep asking for grace. You're going to have, talk about this whole thing of having people that are praying for you. It's a serious matter. It's something you must do. It's something you must have if you're in that situation, because it's not going to be easy. Even with believers, sometimes when the knot on our head loses for a second, we're all human beings here. So you can imagine when you're now constantly with the opposite every time. So I want to just ask that you just, pray for yourself, ask me to pray for you, but I believe you can do it too. There are many people that have come out with these testimonies. I have someone in my church in the UK here, yes, who testified recently that God used COVID to restore her husband. They had white hair. So it's not like they're probably married for at least 25 years minimum. And she was like, that's her husband is in church for the first time after we all resumed the church last month. And she was testifying. And I hope that encourages you. I love how God brought that to my mind, because it's definitely to just encourage if there's anybody here, And she was saying, look at him, that this is the first time he's coming to church. We prayed. I've not seen him pray the way he has prayed in the past few months, all our married life. And I said, so God is in the business of winning souls. And if you don't relent, if you partner with God, he can use your marriage. He can use you. That's what I would say.